we're here with our mascot, the Story Dude. So please, like the video, subscribe to Story Dude, and let's get into the stories.
Today I fucked up by telling my girlfriend about war. I, 38M, have recently started dating, 31F. I've been single for nearly 6 years prior to this. I had a very difficult relationship previously. I felt used for my stability and the constancy that I provided. I'm not the kind of person that thinks that all women are awful or that the dating world is entirely and perpetually flawed for men in my age range. But, typically, I have poor judgment when it comes to other people's intentions, and that has certainly led to a string of situations where I was valued almost exclusively for what I provided and not for who I was. To some degree I think that's alright. But I needed a break, so I left the dating scene for a longer period of time. I'm a veteran. I served following 9/11, and while most people in my life know that I am a combat veteran, their knowledge starts and stops there. I live in a large city and there seems to be a general lack of empathy or respect for military service. I am pretty okay with that in that I generally don't want to relive that part of my life. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy or that I am not proud of my time in the uniform. I am. But I am very alright with moving forward in my life and not having it be central to my current experiences. The problem is that I have PTSD. Not as bad as most. I think that I made out very lucky compared to some, and the bulk of my symptoms are not constant. I tend to get a little tense sometimes at night and can struggle with vivid dreams. This is not an every night thing. It comes in fits and starts lasting usually a week, maybe 2 if it is a bad go, and then fading back. Very rarely I have extremely intense dreams that wake me suddenly. I can be disoriented during this time or very emotionally activated. After I separated from the military, I became a military contractor and changed my career to a technical field. I got myself educated, trained in a technical specialty, and built work experience working as a civilian contractor overseas, where I built myself a substantial nest egg. I was mentored by good men on investments and income generation and have done very well for myself. I hold a full-time position back in the States now with a generous salary and benefits. I've taken care of myself physically and despite having several injuries have stayed very active. So, in regards to PTSD, I have it much better than some, and I'm very grateful that is the case. I'm sorry this is so long. This girl and I met several years ago, but I was not dating and she was seeing someone. We clicked right away but never spoke of it, or crossed any lines, and did not maintain communication. To the point where when I thought of her, I did not reach out. I wondered if I'd imagined the entire thing or if she'd felt it as well. Well, a few months ago, she reached out and we met up and the sparks were there. The boyfriend she was seeing is long gone and we've started to date. This is the first time I've opened myself to a romantic relationship in a very long time. Things have progressed and she has begun spending the night. This is where my first anxiety has come into place. I didn't want to suddenly have a bad episode at night with her there. I didn't want to speak about or even acknowledge my PTSD. I'm embarrassed not only of having it but also of speaking about it because so many men endured and endure so much worse. I have so little to complain about. But with her spending the night I had to at least tell her that sometimes I can wake up suddenly and seem very frightened, or alert. I don't, or haven't, done anything like dive onto the floor or reach to arm myself. But I do suddenly bolt upright sometimes. I have called out before. And other times I get the shakes for a few minutes and feel very confused about where I am. So, I told her. And she was an angel about it. But she also asked me to talk about what it was like with her and some of the things that I remember and struggle with. In the past, I've never gone there with someone. I think sometimes the truth is not what people, particularly women, in my experience, really want to hear. But, in the past, I've been often criticized by past partners of being emotionally unavailable and closed off. They've been critical of my inability to be open with them and have expressed feeling like there were parts of me that were a stranger to them and that it was part of what drove our relationship into negative places. Without excusing any of my ex-girlfriend's decisions or behaviors, she wasn't wrong in this criticism. But still, I couldn't bring myself to really open up to my new GF. She pressed gently but left it alone. She was very sweet through this. Very encouraging. She told me that there was nothing that I could say that would change where we were going together and that she appreciates anyone who served our country. She's a generally empathetic human being and I felt relieved that she didn't really press me to elaborate in that moment. I felt more secure and safe. She told me she loved me. She clings to my arm when we walk together and she compliments me on my body, my clothes. She tells me that I'm handsome and that she feels lucky. She posted me on her social media and introduced me to friends, coworkers, her parents. 3 days ago, though, I did have a fairly rough wake-up one night. It was not my worst. No yelling. But I bolted upright in bed suddenly and startled her awake and, apparently, sat very silent and tense for a few seconds while she tried to ask me if I was all right. I don't remember her asking me repeatedly. I only remember hearing her and telling her that I was fine and thinking it was the first time she'd asked. I settled fairly quickly after. I usually do. But she, again, gently asked me to share with her what I see during these nightmares or what memories I have that bother me. I looked at her. This beautiful young woman. And, for the first time in a very long time, I felt seen and I just didn't want to ruin things. I didn't want to push her away. I've done very well on my own, but there's something blissful in being loved and loving someone, and for whatever reason I opened up. I shared with her a single account that sometimes bothers me. She asked detailed questions and I answered. At first, anyway, I answered openly. But I began to see, even in the dark, her expression changing. I saw worry in her face. I wouldn't call it fear, but I certainly saw uncertainty. And I understood what was happening too late, because her next question was, "Did you enjoy being there, though?" I'm convinced almost every combat veteran can tell you that they enjoyed it. Even the scariest, most violent moments. There's some part of us that comes alive in a way during those situations that just can't when we get back home. It's a cliché by now, but it's real. And she asked the question knowing the answer. I saw it in her face, hoping I would say that I didn't. I couldn't lie to her, but I didn't answer the question. I tried to hit that middle ground. At this point I just wanted her to leave it be. I wished I'd never opened my mouth. That was 3 days ago. She's been distant through texts and we haven't seen each other since. There's nothing, I don't think, that I can do now. Dating has been very difficult for me. I'm so discouraged. I felt that this girl and I had found something. As a veteran we are constantly told to talk about it. Whether you're on TikTok or Instagram, there are just mountains of posts from people, well-meaning people, telling you to share and to speak. Friends and family all want you to confide in them. Or, in the very least, know that you could if you wanted to. But I mean this when I say for those of us that served. You really can't. Or, in the very least, you will never really be able to tell whether you can or can't until you've made the choice and the consequences of that choice are out of your hands. I was falling for this girl and now, despite my best attempts to stay positive, I can't help but feel she saw all of me and walked away. Part of me knows that's all right. It's her choice. And there's integrity in letting someone have that part of you so they can decide if they want to deal with it or not. But part of me can't help but feel like I will never find a partner. And that there is a part of me that I have to hide from those that I love because it is more than anyone can handle. I don't know how to shake the profound sense of loneliness I suddenly feel. I find myself wishing I'd never responded to her to begin with. I find myself wishing that I knew better than to even attempt to try and date again. TLR, I told my girlfriend a single experience from a wartime deployment and now she is distancing herself from me. Update. Wow, so, a lot of comments to go through. Thank you to everyone for sharing advice. For those of you that suggested I speak to her and express that I didn't want to upset her but I wanted to be honest, that's the route I want to go with. I plan on doing so tomorrow. I won't get into the particulars of what I shared for the comments that asked. I will say, however, it did not include any war crimes. And I didn't commit any during my time in service. I read a few comments that were very critical, skeptical, summarizing, of the military. That's all right, guys. You can have your opinions. I can only state that for my part, and in my experience, the guys in the uniform were really good human beings from very diverse backgrounds who genuinely wanted to do the right thing over there. It's okay if you don't believe me. I know that this topic tends to produce a lot of very intense opinions. I just wanted to take a second to state very clearly that during my career wearing the uniform I didn't know anything other than the guys around me trying to act like good people. Even the guys who weren't particularly good soldiers for whatever reason weren't evil people. Update 2. This got so much bigger than I could have imagined. I'm overwhelmed by the thoughtful things people are sharing. We, the girl and I, have plans tomorrow and I plan on asking her how she felt about our conversation and see where things stand. I'll update as soon as I can. Also, I've been trying to get to as many comments as I can, but this got way bigger than I could have anticipated and I can't get to them all. Just know I appreciate every single one. The last 3 days have been really stressful and absolutely laden with anxiety. I posted this to vent it into the void so that I didn't do a couple things I was trying to avoid doing. A. Talk about it to friends and accidentally color how they saw the new girlfriend. B. Put a bigger burden on her when she, in the very least, seems to need some time. I didn't anticipate to be supported so intensely by so many kind strangers. I didn't anticipate that this would help others. I'm grateful for both of these things. It really makes me feel that whatever happens here, even if I could do some things better in the future, I was at least attempting to go about doing the right thing. Update 3. A few comments that I've read through have asked about resources to read more about the warfighter's frame of mind and experiences without having to directly ask a veteran. I'm considering an AMA. On one hand, I think it might be helpful to answer these questions from the impersonal void of the Internet as a means of expression. I also like the idea of potentially helping open-minded people cross the divide between the veteran mindset and the civilian one. But, honestly, I could also see that just getting swamped with shouting matches. War, let alone the wars following 9/11, tend to drive some really intense responses. Never been a soldier, so I've no idea what you've been through, but judging from what's written, you have a lot of integrity. You know how you feel about the PTSD, know that you can't hide it forever, and wanted to stay true to her and to yourself by explaining it. I wouldn't say that was a fuck up. Should maybe bring it up and see if she is distancing from you though. Maybe she just needs processing time. I'd guess that it'd be a lot to take in. Friend, PTSD is nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing. She may need processing time. I had a good mate in the military who shared a couple of the things that hung over him, and geez, definitely needed processing time for that. It didn't change the way I felt about him. I hope this all works out for you, man. TIFU, I was around $88 short on my 4th day as a cashier. So on my first day, I was $10 short and manager told me that it happens and to not worry about it. On my second day, manager helped me count and it was right. On my third day, I was $10 short again. And again, manager told me it's fine. Today I was working extra carefully. I didn't want to be accused of stealing since only time numbers matches was when I was counting in front of my manager. I was double checking almost everything and I felt pretty confident by the end of a day. Yet, I got slapped with $88 shortage. Manager didn't react badly, he was as confused. But now I am scared that I will have problems since not only I lack a lot this time, but also because I messed up 3 times out of 4. Scared to go to work tomorrow. I have to wake up in 5 hours and have a 11-hour shift and afraid to lose my first ever job so soon. I bet I am already suspected of stealing. TLR, I was $10 short on 2 previous days, on one of days everything was fine. But today I am $88 short and now I am scared. English isn't my first language, I am sorry. Are you only one who has access to cash register? I mean, if it's shared with multiple people it might not be your mistakes. I would make sure you're logged out of the till every single time someone takes your spot. I had an issue working as the cashier at McDonald's where anytime someone else used my till just for my lunch it was short. And every time I forced them to log into their own account, I was on the penny accurate. If that's not the case, practice counting change at home and count change back to customers. Don't rely on the machines to tell you the amount, because even though the calculations are correct, your brain will get better at handling cash by doing it manually. I would tell your boss, I'd like to be taught how to count change manually. I really don't want to keep making these mistakes. Even if you already know, just ask again so it looks like you're trying to prevent the same mistakes. Today I fucked up by scrubbing my pits and bits with tingly tea tree shampoo. Like many, today I fucked up submissions. This one started with good intentions. Unlike many, this just happened. So I decided to take a nice hot shower before going on a family trip. This is one of those long maintenance showers you take because you know the car ride with a screaming child will be miserable. While in the shower, I noticed that my wife has a nice tea tree shampoo in the hanging rack above the sprayer. Here's where the today I fucked up happens. I think to myself, what better way to deep clean the old growth forest? I lather a big handful into my hair and then give the boys a good scrub down. It was only after the icy fist of doom gripped my satchel that I thought to read the bottle. Indulge in a burst of freshness with this blend infused with tea tree oil, peppermint and witch hazel. And invigorate your senses with a minty tingle and discover hair that is shiny and healthy looking. I also applied it to my armpits along that same line of logic. As I'm writing this, my pits are catching on fire. Dreading putting on deodorant. TLDR scrubbed pits in nuts with tingly tea tree shampoo and am feelin' the burn. Pits in Bits is a great name for a bordello. Don't feel too bad. I was using tea tree oil shampoo after recommendation for itchy scalp and couldn't figure out what was eviscerating the skin above my eyes, eyelids. Went to a regular dermatologist who referred me to a fancy allergy dermatologist who took one look and knew exactly what the issue was. Stopped the shampoo. Never needed any fancy creams or allergy treatments after months of suffering. Felt like such an idiot. Lol. I once used Ben Gay on a muscle cramp then touched my balls. Never again. I got into poison ivy and I grabbed the wrong bottle in the dark and lathered on pure mint extract thinking I grabbed lavender oil. Yeah, I couldn't sit in cold water nor hot water.